Live. Right, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to Experience UK for inviting us along and asking us to present to you today. And a big thank you to all of you out there as well for joining us as we explore this live case study on what is an absolutely incredible project, the National Museum of Art, Architecture and Design in Oslo and Norway. Norway. Let me first introduce our speakers. So we have Rolf Uggen, who's the Director of Collections Management at the National Museum. We've got Matthew Games, the Head of Exhibition Operations. We've got Alex Willett, who's the Director of Counterculture in Norway, and myself, Chris Potts, who's a Senior Partner and Head of Capital Projects and Exhibitions at Counterculture. When the new National Museum opens next year in Oslo in 2021, it will be the largest cultural centre in the Nordic region. It's currently the largest active museum building project in Europe. And of course, with a collection, which of course includes the Scream, which matches this scale and ambition. Rolf, please tell us how the museum was established.
Thank you, Chris. Norway's National Museum was established in 2003 as a merger of 4 existing museums. The National Gallery, founded in 1837, the Museum of Contemporary Art, Museum of Architecture, and the Museum of Decorative Arts and Design. All this was part of the government's museum reform that started in 2001. Up to you, Matt.
Thanks. As Rolf mentioned, the museum is a multi-art centre responsible for Norway's largest collection of art, architecture and design. And with a vision of accessibility for the widest possible audience and a major focus on reflecting the society and the times we are currently living in. Alex.
Today, we'd like to give you an insight into this major new museum project, the planning to achieve the ambition, the quality of the world-class facilities in the new building, and how we're working in these straitened times towards opening.
Thanks, Alex. Matt and Rolf are now going to talk us through the ambition behind this unique project.
Well, it's my turn first, Chris. I think it was, well, we go back to 2008, and this site here, previously a railway hub in the centre of Oslo, on the Oslo fjord, and it was chosen for the new building to house the 4 institutions under one roof. In 2010, it must have been, following an international design competition. And as you see, Clayhouse Schuberg's design for the new building was selected. And in 2014, I think it was, the project broke ground. Rolf.
Thank you, Matt. And with nearly 55,000 square meters in size, 13,000 square meters of display space, 6,000 square meters of storage internal, and 3,000 square meters of workshop space. This is a unique opportunity for the National Museum to invest across all aspects from front of house display to back of house equipment, ensuring the best museum quality to a new standard. National Museum leadership identified the need to research and learn from other projects around the world. In this way, we can prepare a robust project strategy as well as gather a list of reliable museum suppliers and contractors. Matt.
Thanks, Rolf. The representatives from the National Museum and the design team were lucky enough to visit not only major international suppliers and contractors, but crucially also their clients. So, for example, one of the largest contracts we've worked on and awarded was for the collection exhibition's 230 display cases. Here we visited several of the major European case suppliers, including their manufacturing facilities, and were followed up this by visiting their museum clients in London, Europe, and through the United States. All this in order to understand and plan our own work for this specific project. And in this sense, we were able to question museum clients how the case manufacturers' products were in practice after their equipment had been taken into use. This research aspect extended not only for the planning and procurement of user equipment for the exhibition spaces, but also for the back of house equipment too. And it was during one such research trip back in, it was 2016, wasn't it, Chris?
It was, yeah.
That we met yourselves for the first time, and Counterculture team there. And you were embedded in, as I recall, you were at Tate Modern and at the V&A at the same time. And we visited you and had a tour around what was then the Switchhouse. Alex.
Thanks. So Counterculture work on capital projects across all stages. We have expertise and experience across the full life cycle of a project, from feasibility through to concept and technical design, into construction, and through into commissioning, handover, and occupation. We also work internationally and adapt to the needs and the working culture of our clients. We were working at Tate Modern and the V&A in embedded roles, leading and supporting their major capital expansions.
Thanks, Alex. So back to Oslo, having been invited over to Oslo at the end of 2016 and into 2017, we began working with the team there in a number of different areas, planning for exhibitions and displays, supporting the museum as it translated its grand ambitions to the design and delivery process. This included liaising, for example, with the construction and design teams in what is a really unique and challenging project structurally, as well as managing user and design expectations and planning a robust handover and occupation strategy, which is absolutely key to the museum and the way it's delivered. Alex.
And quality has continued to be front and centre of the museum's project. When you think that most European nationals have occupied their buildings for 150 plus years, there's a certain pressure of permanence and durability to anticipate.
Thank you, Alex. As mentioned before, we recognized this as a valuable opportunity to bring our research equipment, learning facilities and photography studios up to best practice, and where possible to ensure that those spaces could be future-proof for generations of museum professionals to come. And can you talk us through the designs, Matt?
Yeah. So we, here's, as you can see on the screen here, this is Guicciardini and Magni, a group of Florence-based architects. They were chosen by the museum to create the design layout for the collection exhibition, which spreads through 2 entire floors of the museum. As you can hopefully see from the slides, their brief was to choose materials to complement those of the building itself. And G&M will remain with us under the mounting of the exhibitions, continuing to oversee all design aspects in the final finishing. Back to you, Rolf.
Thanks, Matt. Some works have not been displayed in the museum for many years, while others have never previously been shown. All these works are in need of condition check. Many of them will also require conservation work. In total, the evaluation of around 5,000 items will have to be assessed before they can be packed up and moved to the collection exhibition in the new museum. The museum have been ready to seek support and expertise from abroad when necessary to maintain the level of quality. And with disciplines such as mount making being less established in the Nordic region, we have reached out with the help of Counterculture to facilitate introductions or actively bring in research with essential expertise from the UK, Germany, and France. The museum team has expanded in response to the demands and size of the project, but we have also collaborated with external consultants such as Counterculture. In this way, we are able to draw on the right skills and competence to support our internal team at short notice. This has been a valuable safety net, given that not all project road bumps can be anticipated. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Rolf. Yeah, and for Counterculture and the way our approach to capital projects, this is key. You know, key part being that our offer to clients such as to Rolf and to Matt is the flexibility to provide the right expertise at the right time. Different skills and different qualities are needed at different stages of projects. So we work with, like we've worked with the National Museum in Oslo, we work with our clients to understand and adapt their project resources to the different structures of the project. You know, asking questions, who's the client, for example, who is the user or operator? there are so many different project structures depending on who is responsible, for example, the funding or the capital build. Is it operated by the government or regionally or locally or privately? Being mindful of these differences is key to finding the best solution for your project. Rolf.
Thanks, Chris. As we move into the final year of the project, we are recognizing the need to shift gear again as we prepare for the completion of the project, establishing a new business as usual and a fantastic first public opening. Thanks,
Rolf. And this is the stage of a project which particularly excites me. I really enjoy the end of delivery, the moving in, the soft landings, the getting used to your new surroundings. And this is when we were brought into Tate Modern, for example, during the delivery of the Blavatnik building, which Matt referred to earlier. So we were brought in specifically to lead on the delivery of that project, to develop the thinking around occupation, lead the handover, embed the new operating model at the time for the organisation. And this included commissioning and training. And we have since developed this as a bit of a niche for us, actually, at Counterculture. We call this latter phase of project delivery, we call it operational readiness. And as well as Tate Modern, we've implemented this framework for the successful opening of V&A Dundee, for example, a few years ago, and also for the Exhibition Road Quarter at the V&A in London. And in all these cases, we try to adapt, the requirements of this particular period of time, and of the structure of the project. And this can mean really embedded roles, like it was at Tate and V&A and others, but it can also be very light touch and about advice and guidance and setting up a framework in which to complete the project. Alex.
So operational readiness is especially relevant for all of us in this current climate as institutions assess and identify the impact of COVID-19 on their business and operating models. This impact affects institutions reopening now after lockdown with new rules and guidelines to follow. And we've been working with UK colleagues and institutions on how to adapt their operating models at this time. But for some capital projects, the crisis has necessitated a literal return to the drawing board as designs need to be revised to incorporate the flexibility for an uncertain future. Luckily in Oslo, the museum was always due to be closed at this time. Nevertheless, we're anticipating different working practices and adapting for the future.
Thanks, Alex. Yes, so it is going to be a challenge for us when we start mounting. And on a practical level, the National Museum is also experiencing the impact of COVID-19 on its planning and completion and handover process. So as our attention turns to installing the collection exhibition, and we start to occupy the new building, considerations around COVID-19 will most definitely affect our activity between now and the public opening. It's going to be challenging for us to work in teams and eat together and all these different challenges and solve mounting 13,000 square meters of exhibition space and following all the quarantine rules and all these restrictions that we're experiencing right now. Back to you, Chris.
Thanks, Matt. And Counterculture acts as a bridge, I suppose, is a good way of putting it, a bridge between the different worlds, if you like, of museums on the one hand and design and construction on the other. And Rolf, when we spoke a few weeks ago, you put it really well. You said that Counterculture is a firewall between the academic institution and the practical realities of delivery, and in doing so, ensuring the right approach to risk management, for example, allowing the museum to concentrate on what it does best. Can you elaborate a bit further on that?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, building a museum and being involved in procurements of these volumes is quite a leap from our day-to-day business. So it's instrumental for us to have the aid from Counterculture, who have vast experience from similar arrangements and are able to see the project from both the museum's perspective and understands the complexity of the building project. It's ensuring to know that they have both through these, it's ensuring to know that they have been through these phases and can aid us from being guests on the building site to safe handover and occupation. We're really looking forward to establishing ourselves in a new building. With its new large exhibition areas, the National Museum can now showcase more of its collection than ever before, as well as presenting a rich program of temporary exhibition with Norwegian and international artists. The new museum will be a place for new ideas, inspiration, and compelling cultural experiences. These are exciting times for Oslo and Norway. A new large public library have just opened, the Dikeman. The new Munch Museum are also due to open next year. Oslo is a growing cultural capital and one that we hope to welcome you to physically in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Thank you, Rolf. As for Counterculture, we are now established in Norway, and we're looking to develop our international work and bring the very best of UK cultural expertise to these major projects. So in Norway and also across the globe. Back in the UK, Counterculture are not just about projects. We are a multidisciplinary consultancy, and we aim to be a one-stop shop for a organisation's business needs. And we work predominantly with cultural and creative organisations, businesses, as well as individuals, but charities and education providers as well. And we work in areas such as strategy, finance, operations, fundraising and development, as well as law. And we're a registered law firm specialising in particular in areas such as IP and governance. Thank you to all of you. Thank you very much to Matt and Rolf from the National Museum, and also to Alex, who, as you can see on screen, is also out in Norway. And thank you to everyone out there for joining us on this session. We hope you've enjoyed this snapshot into the development of this unique and formidable project. Our contact details are available here, and we'd be absolutely delighted to hear from you. If you've got any questions whatsoever about the National Museum, about the project, or anything else, please do get in contact with us. And if we've got any questions now, we'd be very, very happy to answer them. I think you ask your questions on the live Storm system.
Yeah, they were here.
Right, let's just go through and have a look. So, okay, so the first question, this is probably for Rolf, you and Matt. This is from Stephanie Thorndike. Thanks, Stephanie, for this. So what is the funding breakdown for the new museum? What proportion is government funded versus capital fundraising?
Well, I mean, it's a state funded project in its entirety.
Yeah.
Rolf, I don't know if you want to say any more about it, but it's a government build, Stadsbygg, who are the government building department, and the building in its entirety, including all the user equipment, has been publicly funded. And you're welcome to, we can give you more information if you require that, and you can get in touch with us, either Rolf or myself, at the email addresses on the screen. Any more questions?
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, next question. What percentage of your new museum budget was allocated to the exhibition? From Rosalie.
I'm not sure what the breakdown is on that, because it's almost entirely based on line work from the organization. The opening exhibition is, we have some outside contracts on that, but it's
we could actually it's an interesting question, and I think we could probably break that down. Where it's confusing is that we, as Rolf mentioned, it's we're using a lot of internal resources. We moving from 4 smaller buildings into 1 larger building. We're obviously funded by the culture department and the government, and our budgets have increased because it's an extraordinary situation. And of course, our staffing levels are increasing as we move into the building. We are, obviously, as we discussed in the presentation, hiring in people to help with the mounting of the exhibitions, etc. But we can come back to you with a more specific answer on that, if required.
The next question is from Anne Curtis. Who is providing the showcases and storage for the project? So, Rolf, well, both of you, Matt and Rolf, obviously this is central to your work there.
I've been delegated to answer this question as well. I'm pretty popular today.
Yeah.
Well, it's the company that we chose after we had the public procurement was an Italian company called Procurement. They're based in Milan. So we've been working. We first inspected their production facilities back in 2017. As we touched upon in the presentation, we visited 3 companies, and 3 companies went forward. I don't think that's a secret who they were. That's public. It was Glasbach, who were based in Germany, a company called Meva, who were based in Ghent, in Belgium, and Procurement.
And of course, all of those names are familiar to big institutions and small institutions in the UK. You know, Procurement have done lots of work at the V&A, for example, and many museums. Sorry, Matt, I interrupted you.
No, you're welcome. I mean, I could talk this as I'm leading the procurement on display cases, Chris. I could talk for hours, and I'm sure we haven't got hours. So again, if anyone's got any questions regarding this, they can get in touch.
The storage equipment for the project, that was...
Rolf?
Yeah. I was in charge of partly in charge of the procurement of the storage equipment, and we went to a great length exploring what was available, and did trips around the world and visited museums, and we also did factory tours to check the production line. And it was a pretty thorough investigation, and we ended up with a company called Forster, who are based outside of Vienna. And there were 3 major companies that were that answered the tender. It was Forster and a Dutch company called Brancel, and another one I can't even remember. I'm sorry, but they were pretty new. But we were really happy with what we got.
We could just try and see if we can get through all these questions. They're really good questions here. So Charles asks, did I see there's a new Munch museum in Oslo? So of course that's due to open, I think it's later this year, isn't it?
Next year.
They've just announced the delay, Chris. They'll be opening in the summer.
Okay, opening, so that's next year. So it's been interesting though, isn't it, for the National Museum to see the Munch Museum project being built simultaneously, really, you know, as a project. So it's been quite interesting. And like you said, Matt, just a sign of, and you, Rolf, you know, a sign of what Oslo has to offer as a cultural capital. Anna asks, is the Nobel Peace Centre still there? And it very much is. Yes, it's still on the corner, isn't it, of the plot where the new National Museum is.
Yeah, close to the Museum Square.
Stephanie,
we can actually, because the Nobel Centre is still there, but the other buildings we've taken over, Chris. So that's quite interesting that we've taken over the other station master buildings that are besides the Nobel Centre. So if you see the other buildings to the left there, they have come into the museum's ownership. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because it almost provides a building to act as the gateway in some ways to that part of the museum. And it's been interesting trying to integrate that with obviously the very new architecture of the new build, a museum behind it. Stephanie asks, to what extent is audiovisual and digital technology being integrated into the new museum?
I would say very much so, through different ways. So there's quite sort of atmospheric experience in some of the rooms through the use of sound experience. There is some areas where room sets and so on are being animated in some way. We're trying to provide a different layer of interpretation through the whole of the collection exhibition, which appears on kind of freestanding kind of digital pinpoints that you can delve into different subjects. And throughout the whole museum will be a multimedia guide, which is in development at the moment. So that will be, on the one hand, to provide a kind of audio tour, a version of an audio tour in several different languages, but it will also host different content and maybe used as a wayfinding tool as well, considering the vast exhibition space that you need to navigate through. So yeah, I would say it's been a very integrated part of the development of the exhibition design.
Laura asks, how has the loan policy, so the collection, the objects, been affected during the construction time?
We have tried to be as generous as possible, because that's one of our core features. And but it's been difficult to work on the collection and conserve it and prepare it for the great move, and still do loans at the same level. But we've tried as far as we could to be as generous as possible. But we had, at times, we needed to be more restrictive than we would like to. So yeah, it's affected.
So next question, Chris.
The next question's from Anne, and she goes straight to the point. Thanks, Anne. Is there an opening date yet? The biggie.
Yeah, in a word, no. I think there's a lot of sort of planning still, in the sense that the COVID implication or effect of COVID-19 is affecting some of the decisions, and there's a process of handover of the kind of base build of the building over to the National Museum, which is expected to happen in the coming months. So at that point, the National Museum will announce an opening date, but not before then.
Great, thanks, Anne. And then Anne also asks, who will be providing the multimedia guide?
The multimedia guide is kind of being inputted by several providers at the moment, in terms of the kind of content that will go into it. I know that Muddy Wheat are providing some of that material. Some of it is being generated internally, but I don't have the name of the supplier who is working on the overall kind of framework for it, but we can get back to you.
Great, thank you, everyone. Sarah, your question I can see there. I'll yeah, very happy to help in and talk to your museum studies students. That's absolutely fine. I will follow up with you on the email as you suggest. Does anyone else have anything they wish to ask us? I mean, if not, we could maybe put the contact details back on screen again. As I said earlier, please do feel free to, any questions you've forgotten to ask, or anything you want to follow up on, please do let us know. And you know, we are so looking forward to showing off this incredible building to you all and to the whole world when the time comes. And it really is such an incredible example of the very best in museum practice and quality. couple more final questions here coming in. Has the new museum design been controversial? I think that's a really interesting question. Counterculture weren't involved, for example, when the design competition took place back in 2009-10, but you know, which sort of museum design or cutting edge museum design isn't controversial? I mean, Matt, you would have been around at the time.
I was, and it's interesting. If you look at the exterior, general comments in the press have been that some people love it, some people think it looks like some critics called it a bunker, but it's produced of Norwegian slate, so it's very spectacular, really. There's been a lot of discussion, and there'll be lots more. One thing I will say, I've taken quite a few architects around the building, and when they've come inside the building and looked around and come on the roof terrace and gone into the glass or the light hall, as it's called now, they've all changed their opinion. If they came in negative, they went out very positive.
Yeah. And I think the light hall is a really, you know, I mean, that's obviously the beacon, isn't it, that sits there, and a lot of the shots of the museum really have that lit up and highlighted. And that is, I mean, what's interesting, I think, about the light hall is that is your turbine hall. You know, that's the National Museum's absolutely sort of pinnacle space for commissions, you know, and the flexibility that's built into that space is incredible. Yeah, I think that's I think people will be very, very surprised in a very, very positive way when they see that and how it can be used.
I mean, I don't know if it's been mentioned, but for those of you that are not aware of the project, as the city darkens, the light hall will come alive, and so it will be, as you say, Chris, a kind of a beacon or a lighthouse for the entire fueled area.
Right. I think it's sort of tempting just to carry on talking. Oh, Ian's just put something on here. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ian, and thank you to everyone at Experience UK and everyone else who's organised these sessions and the whole few days. Really, it's been really rewarding for everyone.